everybody, and welcome to another edition of Disney 101. It's your main man, Tommy, on the spot. And on the other side of the United States, I guess, is my main man, Steve. Today, we all know that it's important to save money when you go on your trips, especially to Walt Disney World. But what if it's a special occasion? Or maybe what if you hit the lottery right before heading on that trip? Today, we're going to talk about the most biggest reasons to splurge while on your trip to Walt Disney World. How's it going today, Steve?
Good. Just, gearing up to make my reluctant return to school tomorrow.
Absolutely. And also shout out to Steve for waking up nice and early with us today. It's a little earlier than we normally get started, but we're here. And thanks so much for all of you guys who are tuning in. And thanks so much for all of our brand new subscribers. Really appreciate that over on YouTube. And again, if you do like what you see, please do hit that like and subscribe button. And then also follow us over on Twitter at Disney101pod. So how's your week been, Steve?
It's been okay. I mean, honestly, I've been kind of fighting a cold a little bit, but so that's why I'm so kind of, congested up here. But other than that, it's been doing all right.
I thought you were maybe a little, recovering from that Dallas Cowboy win yesterday, and maybe that's why you were maybe a little sniffly.
Yeah, that's part of it too. They're never excited to see them win.
No. But hey, we can't complain. We get to wake up nice and early today. We get to talk about something we both love, Walt Disney World, and then get ready for another day of football. It doesn't get much better than this.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
So before we get into our main topic today, is there anything you wanted to talk about in the news?
I mean, there was actually something that has, they've kind of eked out a couple of things. A couple of things actually revolving around Bob Iger.
Oh, yes. He's the CEO, obviously, of Disney in general. Came out, had a big interview with Barron's, and there is some tidbits to kind of touch on there. What exactly was the thing that you got most out of it? Is it the Expedition Everest comment?
Not necessarily that, but I did appreciate the fact that he actually did, whenever he does these things, I feel like sometimes he will let things slip that he probably shouldn't have let slip. But he did let slip that the release date for Galaxy's Edge for Star Wars Land in Disneyland is going to be coming around June.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that we got you back on there. I was having a little trouble for some reason with the cameras there, but you do seem good now. And yeah, Galaxy's Edge coming June of 2019. So just around the corner, just a couple months away. That's huge. Plan your trip if you're going to be able to head down there. Now, he didn't say anything about coming to the World, correct?
No, World is still fall, which, I mean, Galaxy's Edge for Disneyland was just going to be summer, which could be anywhere from, June something to September something. But he did basically say that it is coming out in June. As of right now, though, we don't have a firm when in June date. But just, all he really said was, quote, when Star Wars opens in Anaheim in June and in Florida later in the year, that's adding capacity. You're adding 14 acres of land each, more rides and more things to do.
That is pretty great. Yeah. And then, so here and I believe at Disney World, Mickey and Minnie's is supposed to start also in the beginning of the summer, if I'm not mistaken. Is that about right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you got to give Disney credit. Every year they come up with some other reason to make you go there. They know the summer's obviously a big time for families to travel and for everyone to travel. Everyone usually has off. Teachers like yourself, have off throughout the entire summer. So it makes sense for folks to head over there and to do what they have to do.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, the other thing I'm trying to find so one of the things about this, the thing about when he talks about Expedition Everest, number one, he doesn't necessarily mention it by name. But the other thing is that the big no-no was that they went back and changed the quote.
He went and changed it.
Well, he didn't necessarily do it. But what he did do, basically, here's what happened. So he said, so the question was, you're putting a lot of money into the parks. How confident are you about the return there? And he says, the acquisition of these brands and the creation of intellectual property behind them have made a tremendous impact on growing our returns at the parks. When you have Star Wars to market at the parks, Avatar is a good example. Cars Land, we're building a Frozen Land in Hong Kong, Tokyo, and Paris parks. The interest among the potential audience is higher. It's not like I'm going to ride some nondescript coaster somewhere that maybe is themed like India or whatever. No, you're going to Arendelle, or you're going to experience Frozen with Anna and Elsa, or you're going to fly a Banshee into Pandora, and so on. So while he doesn't necessarily name Expedition Everest by name, it is a roller coaster, and it is in a land themed after India. So, you could kind of connect the dots a little bit there. What the big no-no was after there was a little bit of a backlash, including from Joe Rohde, who headed up the Animal Kingdom project. They actually changed the quote to take out that part, that it's just the I'm going to ride some nondescript roller coaster somewhere. They don't, they take out the themed after India part.
Oh, wow. Okay, gotcha. So they actually changed it up.
So, yeah, that's kind of where the no-no was. And that's not necessarily more having to do with him. It's more to doing with with Barron's necessarily. But the thing is, what did they change it on their own? Did Disney somehow pressure them to do it? There's no way of knowing one way or the other. But it's kind of like a iffy. It's like a no-no thing to do.
Yeah, no, that isn't good. And then he, if I'm not mistaken, he actually came out and replied on his official Twitter at Robert Iger. And for what he said was, for the record, I love Expedition Everest and the whole land around it, and I never suggested otherwise. It is distinct, not nondescript, as its popularity suggests. Which I kind of agree. I don't consider Expedition Everest nondescript. I actually like the attraction quite a bit. It's probably one of my favorite attractions in the park. So I was surprised to see so many people assume that's what he meant. I mean, I guess, kind of it is what it is in terms of having that related to India and all that. But I like the attraction.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah, and I think it's, if anything, it's more referring to, like a Six Flags or like a Busch Gardens type place where, you could say that, you have a roller coaster named after a superhero. And the only thing that really has to do with the fact that it's named after a superhero is that, maybe the color scheme is in line with their colors, or maybe there's a big picture of them out at the front of the ride. But aside from that, there's not really a lot of theming, maybe in the queue or the ride itself, or, like that kind of thing. When you go to Busch Gardens, a couple of them are, they have themed lands, and maybe the roller coaster is themed for the land itself in that sense.
Right.
And that, all of the scenery and everything around it might be, from India or Egypt or whatever the case is. But it's not as immersive as a Disney attraction is. And I think that's kind of what he was getting at, even though, yes, Expedition Everest is a roller coaster at its heart, it is still a story between the whole queue. And even, when you're going up with, in the ride itself, there's an actual, story within the ride and everything. And, if the animatronic actually worked, it'd be that much better, but, it's still there.
Actually,
the
animatronic doesn't work?
No, the animatronic doesn't. It hasn't worked for a long time.
Oh, wow. And they haven't fixed it.
No. So the kind of what happened there was that they built they built the animatronic and everything, and they built the animatronic to kind of be anchored into the structure of the ride and all of all of the building that's kind of housed it. The problem was the animatronic was so strong that it actually started to break apart the foundation and actually started to tear the building apart.
Whoa.
The problem is though is that they can't go in and fix it without basically tearing down the whole ride. So yeah, so the animatronic doesn't move anymore. It's kind of stuck in place. But with the strobe lights and everything, the fact that it happens so fast, you don't even realize that.
Yeah, I didn't. If you didn't until this conversation, I had never even realized it wasn't working.
Yeah, so it's stationary. You wouldn't know that it's an actual animatronic, but it's still great ride.
Just thinking about it, I'd say like of all the attractions at Disney World, Expedition Everest wouldn't pop in my head as the nondescript ride. It would probably be Big Thunder Mountain, and I love Big Thunder Mountain, but that kind of is a little nondescript.
I mean, you're still in Frontierland. It's still, themed after that. But yeah, I guess, like it's there's a story that's a little bit more subtle and it's a little bit more prevalent in some of the other Big Thunder Mountains around the world. But yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, I mean, more so, I'd say more than Everest. But that being said, it is crazy because I did see a lot of people were up in arms about this. They were not happy about it. So I'm glad we were able to touch on that. And it's crazy because I do feel like rather than everyone getting, people were excited that it was announced that Galaxy's Edge was coming in June 2019. But it felt like people were more, more talking about the comments he made about what people thought was Expedition Everest, which is crazy. I guess it just kind of speaks to, who a lot of people are in terms of, in terms of focusing on the negative rather than the positive.
Well, yeah, and I think it's more, it's one of those things where it's people are very quick to connect the dots and try and, read between the lines and that kind of thing. And, if he would have said any other country or, anything else or, whatever, people probably wouldn't have read too much into it. And there was this whole thing where, maybe because there's Expedition Everest is rumored to be going through refurbishment and remodeling and that kind of thing. So, maybe that has something to do with it too. But, at this point, yeah, it's kind of, I think this is going to be very quickly blown over.
Yeah, I agree. And I sure hope so. Anything else you want to touch on his particular interview?
No, those were kind of the highlights. I mean, it goes into a little bit more in depth about a couple of other things, and it's more about the product and Disney as a brand, and that kind of thing, and content and with like the streaming service and that kind of stuff. There's a little bit more to it, but those were kind of the big takeaways and the big things that kind of popped up over it.
Yeah, no, definitely. It was definitely a big piece, and whenever the CEO comes out and talks, especially with so much coming up in regards to Disney, with all of these new different with Star Wars, Galaxy's Edge coming both to Disney World and Disneyland, there's definitely a lot to look forward to. Obviously, also Disney's launching their streaming service, so they've put a lot of money into this. And so I think a lot of people are kind of looking at him like, hey, you're putting all this money both into the parks and into media outlets in general. Do you expect to see quite the return on this? And I think it's safe to say they will get quite the level of interest will peak, and the return should be good on that as well.
Yeah, definitely.
One of the other bit of news that did come out, I don't know if you heard about this, but the tails on the back of the coasters at Slinky Dog Dash have been removed due to safety concerns. Have you heard about this?
I did hear about it, yeah.
So apparently the deal is that they bounce and were behind the actual coasters themselves, or the little what do you call those little portals or the deals that you sit in?
The trains?
The trains, there you go. And I guess they'd bounce around and probably bounce off of the coaster, the track itself. And I guess that due to concerns, they've been removed, and they do look a little strange. Have you seen the new ones?
I mean, I've seen them without the tail, and it does look a little sad.
Yeah. I think the tail's added to it, and it was a little sad, but I guess safety definitely, comes first when it comes to that. The other thing that I wanted to talk to you about, apparently there is a brand new 3-day ticket option if you're a SoCal resident for Disneyland folks. So starting January 7th, a 3-day, 1 park per day ticket will be $179, and a 3-day park hopper ticket will be $234. That is pretty insane. That's less than $60 a ticket for SoCal members to go to Disneyland once a day.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost surprising because I would imagine that much like, the thing is that it's it's weird that it's specific for SoCal instead of just all of California. It would be like the equivalent of Disney World offering an Orlando resident, you know, ticket, offer or something like that. Where I feel like most people that go to Disney, if you live in Orlando, you're probably an annual pass holder. I would imagine something very similar with Disneyland, where if you go to Disneyland and you live in SoCal, you're probably an annual pass holder. But
Well,
like,
it's
I
funny
don't
you say
know,
that.
maybe
I
not.
did just I did just take a look at this here, and apparently, there is something where you can get one as well if you are a Florida resident for Disney World. Basically, there's a story that came out in the Florida News by Kelly Basil. It says Florida residents will need some Disney magic in their lives, need to cash in on this Disney World ticket deal for 2019. For a limited time, Florida residents get a special ticket offer and purchase a 3-day Discover Disney ticket option for only $175 plus tax. Ticket is valid to one theme park per day. So it's basically the same thing, I guess. And Disney residents can add a fourth day for just how much do you think it is to add a fourth day to that ticket?
$20.
On the money, 20 bucks, $195, 4 parks per day. So really, I think who this is probably appealing to most is folks who just moved to Florida. Just moved to Florida, want to get out there, see the parks, see what you're doing. $200, you get 4 days in the parks, and it's a good little staycation. If you don't mind me asking, how much is it for an annual pass for Florida residents?
Uh, it's funny because we were just looking at it because ours are coming up for renewal. And I have to remember again. It was something like, I want to say, because we're renewal, we're not doing a down payment. And then it's something like $46 a month.
Oh, that's pretty great.
Like that.
That is pretty awesome. So you're looking at less than 600 for the year? Is that right?
Yeah, I think it's like five. It's five something.
So they do have, so you can get a 3-day Discover Disney ticket with a park hopper option as well for $207.50, which is ridiculously cheap. 4-day, and again for the 4-day park hopper ticket, it would be $232.50. Then it says park hopper with plus option for $232.50 plus tax. What is the plus option?
So with Walt Disney World, the plus is basically the water parks. I think it used to include it also includes Disney's Oak Trail Golf Course with like the green fees, not like a few other things, but basically when you go, if you want to play around golf, which I think a lot of people don't realize that Disney has a bunch of different like full golf courses, not just mini golf. One of them is Oak Trail Golf Course, and it includes the green fees. Teen time reservations are required and are subject to availability. But there's that. ESPN Wild World of Sports Complex. It's valid for admission on event days. I'm not sure what events those entitle because there's a lot of different events that go on at ESPN that I don't think would be that, like the Brave spring training and a few other things. But if it did, that would be cool. And then the water parks. The water parks, I think, are the big draw for the plus.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, that definitely does sound so specifically if you were going during the summer. But I'm assuming this is probably for a limited time. It doesn't say, at least the piece doesn't say when this expires. So it's one of these things where, never mind. It does say that the tickets are now through June 27th. So it really does go all the way through the summer. Now it says proof of Florida residency is required to be eligible for the deal. Is that to say that you couldn't go down there and get the ticket for me?
I cannot, no. Because it's whoever the ticket is assigned to, unless it is a minor, or I think there's one other stipulation. But if it's a minor, basically whoever is buying the ticket for them has to prove that they are a Florida resident. So, if it's a grandparent or something like that, buying a ticket for their, grandchild that's under 18, something like that, then I think there's a little bit of a wiggle room. But don't quote me on that.
Well, and I guess, sorry, go ahead.
So for a silver pass, the silver pass is going to be it has a little bit more blockout dates. It's basically the silver pass blockout dates for a Florida resident are basically around Christmas and New Year's, around Easter, and basically the whole summer. It's like all of June, all of July, and the first week of August or so. I think there might be one or two more blockout dates, but that is $31 a month.
And that means you can't get in there?
Yeah, it's blocked out for around Christmas, New Year's, Easter, the summer, and a couple of other times.
You're missing out on more than 95% of the year. Feels like so much time you're missing.
Yeah, there's a lot of time that you can go that is not super crowded and or hot.
Gotcha.
But if you
have that one?
like, huh?
Do you have that option?
We actually usually go with the Gold Pass because the Gold Pass it does still have blockout dates, but the blockout dates are really only around Christmas, New Year's, and Easter, which are times that we never go to the parks anyway.
Right. No, I don't blame you.
But that one is it's $43.30 per month plus a down payment. But if you renew, I believe they waive the down payment. So it's $609 total for anybody, and that's anybody 3 and up. But otherwise, you can skip if you do the renewal. You don't have to pay the down payment, but you can get it for $43 a month.
That is pretty great, and that's for Florida residents.
That is for Florida residents, yeah. For Florida residents and Disney Vacation Club owners.
Oh, there you go. And so, what is the difference there? And if you were to get now that I've completely gone off the ledge on a completely different tangent away from this, how much are you saving then from like a regular? If I wanted to go and buy a Disney ticket,
let's see if I can change it around.
Because I have considered it. I mean, you know, depending upon how much I would have to go to pay for itself, I mean, it would make sense for me to try it.
So this is, I mean, if there weren't any other things that we want to talk about in the news, this is actually one of the things that I have that I've kind of mentioned about things that you should splurge on. And an annual pass, you know, is definitely one of the top things that I would recommend to splurge on. You might not necessarily think of it as a splurge, and you might think, you know, you're crazy. Why am I going to get an annual pass? But the thing is that, as we're going to find out, because once I get this loaded up, I had it, but then it kind of went away. So if we're not talking about, you know, like one of the special promotional tickets, or, you know, anything like that, you know, it could. So let's see, for example.
Well, so now that we've gone into a smooth transition here into going down this, I agree. I think I mean, you know, we were just on the air on Tuesday, so even less than a week ago. So news is a little light right now.
Yeah, that's true.
It is good to transition here into you know, our main topic of the day, which is things to splurge on at Disney World, reasons to splurge. And a reason to splurge might be as simple as, hey, you're taking your first trip down to Disney. Maybe you're taking your wife down to Disney. You want to do a little something extra. Something I'm doing in a couple months, I'm looking into doing is going down there and doing something a little different than what my wife and I usually do. So today, Steve and I were going to kind of go back and forth. I don't know if we're going to get to a full 10. That is the hope. But we'll go into it and we'll talk about things to splurge on. And there could be something super big, like an annual pass that Steve's about to get into, or it could be something a little smaller, like most of the ones that I have that are reasons to splurge. And I'll defend my reasons. And if Steve disagrees, he can jump in as to say why he doesn't think that's a reason to splurge. But all right. So starting off, we're going to say number one on our list is going to be, and we should actually, can't even do it, but. Number one reason to splurge is going to be one of Steve's picks, and that is an annual pass.
Yeah. So I started crunching numbers, kind of, and they're loose numbers. It's not going to be anything to quote anybody on or anything like that. But hypothetically, so let's say you're coming down in March, which is this year. It's not a particularly busy or I guess expensive time, I should say. It's kind of on the lower end of how much you would be spending. So let's say you want to get a 5-day park hopper. So
which is
let's say
weird.
that. So let's say you're going to get let's say you're going to get a 5-day park hopper. Um, let's see. Seems to me that that's going to be for March approximately $315. But
$315 for the park hopper.
yeah, just
Okay.
by itself. Now, a lot of people are saying, okay, so it's going to be 315. Why am I going to be spending almost double that when, I'm not going to be coming down? But a lot of people come down and they don't realize that they're going to be coming down again and say, maybe, oh, actually, you know what? Maybe we are going to be coming down in fall for Food and Wine Festival or for Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party or for Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party or for a Run Disney event or, any of the other number of reasons why you would be coming down again within the same year. Um, or maybe you're one of those smart people that wants to time it so that even though you only take one trip a year, your trip the following year is going to coincide with that year that you have that pass so that you can get into the parks on the tail end of your annual pass. So let's say, you're coming in the second week of March this year, maybe you're going to come in the first week of March next year.
Oh wow.
You're still
Okay.
gonna, I know it's a little bit of planning ahead that some people don't do, but when you think about it, it's going to. So now you're up to maybe it's going to be
Oh
Excuse me.
no, it's okay. No,
Yeah, that
I
cold.
I am terrible at planning ahead, but this might be a reason to start to plan ahead. I actually like what Steve's
Yeah.
saying here.
So let's say that, and also once you start paying the annual pass, they're not going to go around and raise ticket prices on you once you've purchased that annual pass. So say maybe it's going to be $65 a day right now when you're coming in March, but maybe next year it's going to get bumped up to 75. Or, maybe without realizing it, Easter is going to fall super early. And maybe because of the fact that it's Easter, ticket prices for the time that you would be coming around next year are going to go up. You never know. But let's say, maybe it's going to come around. Maybe it's going to be another $65 a day for another 5-day ticket. That's putting you up at 630 now, roughly. So now just tickets alone, we've already reached the point where it makes sense. Maybe we'll go ahead and we'll splurge it. The other thing is, especially if you get one of these annual passes, you can set up that payment plan and you don't have to throw all of your money down all at once like you do for a lot of these tickets. Um, so it's actually not splurging in a way. It's actually, you actually can space out your payments a little bit so you're not so crushed up all the way up at front. The other thing is, so maybe you decided, you know what, when we're going to come down next year, for some reason, don't know why, we're not going to stay on Disney property. If you weren't staying on Disney property and you bought a regular theme park ticket, you would have to pay for parking. And
Uh,
let's say you're going to get, another 5 days next year. And let's say that parking is $25 a day. So now you just added another $125 by itself just for parking that you would not have had to pay for with the annual pass because parking is included with the annual pass.
oh wow. So even if you stay off property, you're welcome to go and park there.
Yeah. Well, so when you're off of Disney property, if you're staying on Disney property at Walt Disney World Resort, you don't have to necessarily pay for parking. But you do if you're not staying on Disney property and you don't have an annual pass.
Gotcha. Wow, that's crazy.
And that's for the theme parks. Parking at a Walt Disney World Resort. You only can stay. Basically, you can park in any of the parking lots at a resort. Basically, if you're staying there, or if you have a dining reservation at one of the restaurants that are at the particular resort. So if you go to the boardwalk and say, hey, you know what, I want to we're going to Epcot and Hollywood Studios. We want to stay at the boardwalk so that we can walk to both. You're going to get to the front gate and they're going to say, okay, are you staying at Disney's Boardwalk Villas? No. Do you have a dining reservation at any of the Boardwalk restaurants? No. All right, well, you're going to have to go around and park at either Epcot or Hollywood Studios. A lot of people tried to kind of finagle that, but they very quickly put the kibosh on that. Let's say now we're up to, let's see, so 313 plus another 313. So we were up to $630 plus 5 days of parking. So now we're up to $755. So let's say you don't go with a couple of other things, and let's say you want to eat in the parks. So a lot of times, if you're going to be sitting down to a table service meal at any of the Walt Disney World restaurants, annual pass holders get up to a 20% discount on some restaurants. They get a discount on merchandise. You get the memory maker included with an annual pass. So right there, you can see how the savings actually start to really, really add up. Even if you were originally just thinking, I'm just going to buy it just for the tickets. There's a lot of other perks and benefits that you get coming in with the annual pass that a lot of people don't necessarily think about.
Well, and I mean, I think the idea that you could pay it off is huge too. How much is the down payment usually?
Down payment, I think, is, let me see if I can get back to it. So let's see. Some of these you don't, like, you have to actually go into like actually starting to buy it, which I don't necessarily want to do just yet. Let's see. So,
well, I definitely think the idea that I splurge on an annual pass is worth it, especially because of the fact, if you're going down even 2 times a year, as you just said, I mean, it really kind of pays for itself, even for a non-Florida resident like myself.
Yeah. So down payment for a gold pass. Now, the gold pass is only for Florida residents or DVC members. But hypothetically, for the gold pass, a down payment would be $129.
That's not bad at all. You're actually saving money on your first trip down there by doing this, because you're probably only paying $150 total.
Yeah. So let's see. I want to get up here. Oh, going back there.
Well, I'm going to quickly just go into one of my things to splurge on, because mine's a lot smaller scale. But one of the things I think is important to splurge on when going to the parks, and then we'll circle back to Steve's annual pass idea, is going to be a character popcorn bucket when going to Disney World. Now, obviously, this isn't a huge splurge. I think it's a difference of about $7 for a popcorn and $12 for maybe $12, $15, 20 tops for a character bucket. But it's one of these things where it holds more popcorn. Throughout your entire stay, you're able to get refills on it, and you end up not getting a pretty cool souvenir that you could take home with you. We have a few of them here. We have a Dumbo one. We have a Cinderella's carriage one, which was one that my wife got, and we kind of walked the whole popcorn bucket around as if it was like a small pet or something. And then we have also somewhere an Oogie Boogie one, which we got when we went to Disneyland, which was cool because it was timely with what they were doing for Halloween, and it was cool to get. So that's number 2 on our list, and I guess the first choice of mine.
Yeah. So the thing is, as I quickly, it's starting to add up here. So with the payment and everything, apparently the payment plans are only eligible if you're a Florida resident.
So
that's kind of where a lot of people might not necessarily find the savings. So you would have to go up to a platinum pass if you're not a Florida resident.
And that's pretty. That's like $1,200.
That is fairly steep. But the other side is that the platinum pass does not have any blockout dates, and it does. You get the theme parks, you get the photo pass downloads, you get the 20% on dining, you get the 20% on merchandise, and you do get the parking still. So it still represents a decent value. It's not as a huge of a savings as some of the other passes that they offer for Florida residents. But at that point, you might be, for an extra $100 a person, you might be interested in getting the Platinum Plus Pass because of the fact that it does include water parks as well.
Oh, damn.
So if you're one of those people, it basically, aside from like this week where, it's dipping into the 70s, and that's just, for Florida residents, we might not want to go to the parks. People visiting from up north that are, have been dealing with, temperatures in the 30s and 40s all year. They might say,
"No, it's rough."
Yeah, you might say, "I don't care if it's only 70 degrees. I'm going to that water park." So it's going to get the Platinum Plus. I would say if we're talking about annual passes to splurge on for an extra $100, you get access to the water parks, you get access to ESPN, you get access to the Oak Trail Golf Course. Um, it's still the same dining and merchandise discount, which I would like to see go up personally. Not that I would ever have any interest in getting the Platinum Plus pass. That's a tongue twister. Um, but I would say, you might want to Disney might want to think about maybe adding the incentives to the Plus Pass, maybe boost that to like maybe 25% off dining or something like that.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think
But that's just. But it's an extra $100 to get the Platinum Plus Pass, which includes all of that extra stuff. Which I think people again that is a lot of money to pay up front. But again, if you're going to be coming back and being able to time it, and that the savings starts to add up, especially if you're a family of let's say 4 or 5 people and you're paying for all this stuff all at once. Yeah, it could get a lot, but it's going to be a lot one way or the other.
I agree. No, I think you're right. So number one on our list, annual passes. Number two would be the character popcorn bucket. Number three, Steve, do you have another one?
I do, and that's going to be some of the Walt Disney World tours that they have to offer.
Okay. Specifically, basically the tours around the parks.
Yeah, so there's a lot that are there are a lot of the behind the scenes tours. Those are the ones that I would probably recommend the most, and especially just because there's a couple that are in Magic Kingdom. So there's the Keys to the Kingdom tour, and there is there's also the VIP tours, which are above and beyond. That's a step above. I'm talking kind of like there's regular kind of just more or less regular behind the scenes tours, like Keys to the Kingdom, which is really cool, especially if you've ever had any interest in going to see how the famed utilidors work, that are the tunnels that are kind of underneath the Magic Kingdom.
Oh, okay.
To kind of see how that works.
Yeah.
But if that's not what you want, but if you are an animal lover at all, any of the Animal Kingdom tours are absolutely awesome. We did the Caring for Giants tour last year when it kind of first came up, and it's where you get up close and personal. Not too close, but you get closer than any regular guest would ever get to the elephants. You get to see where they're housed. You get to see how they're cared for and nurtured and that kind of stuff. Really awesome. You do get up close and personal with rhinos in another tour.
Damn it. These are Animal Kingdom, right?
All at Animal Kingdom, yeah. But the big one that I would say is the Wild Africa Trek.
That is very cool. Is that the one I remember now, Amanda, your wife, we had spoken about her doing, was that like an adventure course or something in Animal Kingdom?
So there's like a little bit of like where you cross over a rope bridge. And there's a little bit, it's not, I wouldn't necessarily go and say it as far as say it's an adventure course, but you do have to be, slightly more, mobile.
Gotcha. Okay.
Than some other tours. It's not just a regular walking tour, but it's you get so close to a lot of animals, and they also do feed you, of course, either snacks and usually lunch, that kind of thing. But it's absolutely worth it because it's one of those once in a lifetime things.
That's very cool. Excellent. All right. Well, if we're bouncing back over here, my number two thing to splurge on here wouldn't be necessarily for me personally, specifically not right now, but would be the Bippity Boppity Boutique for the young ones in your life. This is something I've seen periodically from time to time. I am not too sure how expensive this is, but what I will say is I feel like there's nothing that would make, I feel like, a young daughter or granddaughter more happy than go into the parks dressed to the nines in a Belle outfit or a Tiana outfit, and then going over and getting their makeup and hair done and being able to really be a princess for a day. So I always feel like the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. Now I will ask Steve, is this only open to young girls?
The princesses as of right now are, however, you could also they have little princes where you can dress up, where the princess can kind of get a modified makeover, or you can also do the Pirates League. That's at Magic Kingdom, yeah. So
yeah. See, that's cool too. I mean, Like, what kid doesn't want to be a little pirate? And I'm sure at some point they're going to have an opportunity to be a little Jedi too, and be able to do
They
that.
have something similar for Jedi that is at Hollywood Studios, but it's
Oh,
you don't have to get made over necessarily. That is more it's the training of the Jedi where you can sign them up and you do I think they call it the Trials of the Temple or something like that now.
very cool. That's awesome. All right. So yeah, that was my second thing to splurge on.
All right, cool. I'm kind of bringing up some numbers here. Do you want to go into your next one while I do this?
Absolutely. So my next one on the list, kind of sticking with the princesses in Disney. I feel like this is good for a once in a while, or if you've got someone in your life, like my wife, who absolutely loves this. The Cinderella's Royal Table is definitely something I would splurge on at least once. I know that it's a really, it's kind of one of those premier character dining experiences. But number one, let's be honest, we've all had that opportunity where we walk into the park and we think, oh my God, what's in the Cinderella's castle? This gives you an opportunity to go into Cinderella's castle. That is usually a place that's really reserved for Make-A-Wish events, or sometimes I think celebrities can rent that out. But this is your opportunity, really, as a park guest, the only chance you have to go into the castle. You get a great photo op with Cinderella as you first walk in. And then you get to sit there and you have your lunch, and at the same time look out the window and see everybody coming into the park, and get that kind of that bird's eye view from way up top of all of the guests coming in. The food is pretty good, and of course you also then get all the princesses coming in there. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and I might be mistaken on this, but I believe right now that's the only princess dining in any of the American parks. They used to have Ariel's Grotto, which I actually thought was really, really cool, but they've changed that since. And I think the only one that's straight princess dining is Cinderella's Royal Table right
now. There is also the I always forget how to pronounce it, Akershus restaurant in Norway that also does princess dining.
Really? Okay, so there you go. So that I thought that one was more frozen dining.
No, it's princesses.
Oh, wow. There you go. Yeah. So you also have that option as well.
Which I would offer as a little bit of an alternative, just because of the fact that it's a little bit less expensive, and the food's a little bit better, honestly.
Gotcha.
Just my 2 cents. Not that I don't think that the Cinderella's Royal Table isn't something to splurge on, but right. The problem with it is very, very difficult to get dining reservations. It's one of the top 3 hardest restaurants to get into. So if you cannot get a reservation to Cinderella's Royal Table with that opportunity to splurge, your plan B should definitely be the Akershus Royal Banquet Hall.
I think in regards to these character dinings, sometimes the food isn't really what you're even going for necessarily, as much as it is getting that character experience. And certainly the experience of being in the castle, I feel like, is top notch. When we got engaged and did our engaged trip down to Disney, that was something that we did because it was for an occasion, and we got a kick out of it.
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm just kind of doing quick, So right. one of the things that I always recommend to splurge on, and speaking of food, of course, is the Disney dining plan. And now the Disney dining plan is only offered to guests staying at a Walt Disney World resort. However, as of right now, if you plan anytime, I think it's between like now and September or something like that, there are select Disney resorts that are offering free dining with a stay and with a ticket package, which is a fairly common offer that Disney offers. It's usually kind of once a year or so, and they offer a dining plan and ticket package kind of that's included in the overall price of the resort. So sometimes it's you have to kind of crunch the numbers a little bit, but sometimes you can kind of see where the value would be, especially if you're going to be coming around during that time. And I think it's, sometimes you have to stay for a certain amount of time, you have to buy a certain ticket, but then you do get the complimentary dining. where if you're not necessarily doing that, it is still definitely something to look into. Especially if you are now, there are going to be certain people on certain diets, or just, if you have people that don't really eat a lot, or, whatever the case is, there might be times where this might not necessarily be something for you. But if you are staying on Disney property, and if you are, going to be eating a lot in the parks, a very easy way to kind of lose track of money is just to not think about the food, the money that you're spending on food. But the great thing about the Disney dining plan is 99% of the stuff that you're going to be buying at the parks is going to be covered. And it can be covered one way or the other, so that you don't really even have to think about that. It's maybe a little bit more upfront, but it's that peace of mind where you're not in the back of your head spend it going, every time you touch your magic band to one of those touch to pay devices, you're not thinking, oh, that's more money. Oh, that's more money. Oh, that's more money. You're thinking, I already have this. I'm thinking this is done. This is taken care of already. It's one less thing that I think about on my vacation, especially with the Disney vacation. There's a lot of things to think about on a Disney vacation, and having to figure out where you're going to eat should not be one of them, or, having to pay for food and that kind of thing. And it very quickly adds up, for right now, for the dining plan for an adult, and that's for some reason Disney considers an adult to be someone that is 10 years or older.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I know plenty of 10 or 11-year-olds that do not eat the amounts that an adult does. But to be fair, I know a fair amount of 15 or 16-year-olds that can probably pack away twice as much as an adult. So, maybe it balances out. Who knows? But that would be 75.49, so 75.50, let's say, per person per night for an adult. If you do have any children that are 3 through 9, be 27.98 per child.
Wow, they cut that like a lot.
That is a very significant difference. And that is for what Disney just calls the Disney dining plan, but most people will say either the regular or the original, or whatever. But it comes with one table service meal, one quick service meal, 2 snacks, and a refillable mug. In addition to the fact that those meals come with, if you would like to, a soft drink or a hard drink, some sort of alcoholic beverage, which, depending on if you are an adult that likes to indulge every so often in some sort of alcoholic drink, it's included. Or also any of those signature drinks, those, like if you get, with the kids, with the light up, with the glow cubes, if you get the Buzz or the Tinkerbell cup with the glow cube, that's included as well. If you go someplace that a lot of places have really awesome other regular signature drinks that are non-alcoholic, like milkshakes and that kind of stuff, those are all included. You can get one of each of those. So it really starts to add up. And I started kind of crunching numbers, and you can very quickly see where there are a lot of places, if you want to start trying to get the most bang for your buck, you're going to go to each restaurant, and, you don't have to feel like, a lot of times when I'm going out to eat, if I'm not, if I'm paying for my own meal, I'm looking and saying, okay, what's the least expensive thing I can order off of this menu? I'm going to go with the chicken tenders and fries. I'm going to go with the cheeseburger. I'm going to go with this. But you're on vacation. You shouldn't necessarily, like a lot of people still think like that on the vacation even, but you shouldn't necessarily need to feel like that. And with the dining plan, doesn't matter what you get. It's all already paid for. So you can feel free to get, steak or the lobster or whatever every night, and not feel like you're kind of handcuffed to, oh God, but this is so much food. This is so much meal, this is so expensive. If you're a vegetarian, or if you don't necessarily go for the steak every day, it might not pay for it as much. But I still think it's definitely, it balances out. This is also, of course, depending on what restaurants you go to. Some restaurants are signature dining restaurants, so they might take 2 entitlements, but most of them are going to take 1, including a lot of character dining and a lot of the buffets. So if you think about having to, your buffet, which is upwards of $30-$40 a person, that alone, is half of your day. If you're spending $75 a day on food, which you could very, very, very easily do at Walt Disney World. If you go to one of those character buffets, that's $35-$40 a pop.
Yeah.
That's half of what you would spend already, not including the two snacks that's offered, not including the quick service meal that's offered. You know, so it could very quickly add up. So again, it's not necessarily something that I would consider a splurge, but some people might, and I think one way or the other, it's always worth it to get the dining plan if you are staying on Disney property.
No, I totally agree. The trip that we've gone when we had the Disney dining plan, it was great because the refillable mugs are always fun. Always good to go down there at like 2 in the morning and fill up on some soda. Usually the place that where you're staying has some place that's open at least pretty late that you can go down there and do that. B, it encouraged me to want to go and eat these things and have those options to do that and try different dishes out. And if you don't like it, hey, it counted as a snack, so it wasn't the end of the world. But it was really something that is cool, and I agree with that.
Yeah.
Is there anything? Was there any other ones that you had on your list?
I mean, there were other things that I could say. If it's more of like a money is no object type things to splurge on. I think the big one would be if I'm going all out, for example, if you want to go out for a friend's bachelor party or something before you get shot down, and then we go to a B&B instead. I would go with one of the 3-bedroom grand villas that they have at some of the deluxe resorts.
Okay.
Because it's 2 floors. Most of them are 2 floors, 2,000 square feet, fit 12 people. They have, because they are at the deluxe resorts, they have gorgeous views, awesome amenities, just absolutely stunning. And or if you want, go over to the Disney's Polynesian Villas and Bungalows. Check out one of the bungalows that are right on the water. They're stunning. You feel like you're in Bora Bora. You have your own plunge pool. You have all of these other very, very cool, awesome, one of a kind amenities that you can't get outside of traveling over to Bora Bora or traveling over to, Africa and staying on safari somewhere. If you're going to go to Animal Kingdom, and you can walk outside your door in the morning, drink your coffee, and just watch the giraffes and zebras go by. That is you can't put a price on that kind of experience. And especially when you're a 6 or 7-year-old kid walking out and you can look down and see the look on their face as this is happening, that's priceless.
I agree. That's really cool. One of the other things I always think about splurging on, and I always think it's worth it, is the Disney Magical Express. For those who don't know, when you arrive in the airport, Magical Express is an option to pick you up and bring you to your Disney resort. I always think that it's completely worth it to do this. Now, quick question on that. Do they ask for your reservation to make sure you're staying on property before you pay to do the Magical Express?
So the thing about that is it's only a splurge because in order to get on the Disney's Magical Express, you have to be staying at a Walt Disney World property.
I gotcha. Okay.
So you're splurging in the sense that you're paying a little bit more because you're staying in Walt Disney World Resort, which I guess you could say is definitely something that I would recommend doing. I totally recommend staying at a Walt Disney World property for a bunch of different reasons. So that would be something to splurge of in and of itself. But no, so when you basically set up your resort reservation, you set up your Disney's Magical Express there as well.
It's included.
Yeah, it's included. It's complimentary for staying at Walt Disney World Resort. So yeah, it's one of the perks of doing it, where you don't have to pay for a taxi or an Uber, or you don't have to rent a car. It's completely complimentary.
That is awesome. See, for me, I guess I must be thinking back to Disneyland Paris. It is not complimentary, but you also don't need to be staying on Disney property. You can just take that Magical Express right from the airport, which usually it's really pricey to get around from the airport anyway. So the Magical Express is actually one of the cheaper options to get around. And they drop you off right at I think like a general area near Disneyland Paris. Most of your hotels have shuttles that go to Disneyland Paris. So you just call up your hotel once you get there, and they pick you up from there when you arrive. And so it actually works out really well.
Yeah, I mean, I could go ahead and say that one of the things that I would definitely splurge on if, kind of, if you have the money in it, it would totally be worth it to stay at either one of the Magic Kingdom resorts, which is going to be kind of either the Contemporary, the Polynesian, the Grand Floridian, even the Wilderness Lodge. Wilderness Lodge is one of my favorite resorts. Those are really cool to splurge on because of the proximity. You don't even have to rent, you don't have to think about a car at all because you're talking about the Disney's Magical Express. So you have to and from the airport taken care of. In order to get to Magic Kingdom, you can just hop on the monorail or hop on a ferry boat. It'll get you right there in less than 10 minutes. You can get on, take a bus and, take one of the Disney coach buses and one of the shuttles. They'll get you there. Depending on if you're going over to Animal Kingdom, it's a little bit further. Maybe it's 15 minutes, but still, we're talking so much more convenient than having to rent your own car or take an Uber, worry about paying for parking, worry about parking your car, worrying about remembering where you parked it, the whole hike all the way back to your car. Yeah, you could take a tram, but having to wait around for that, you don't have to wait around for the rush and everything. You just hop on a bus and you're back at your resort. It is so much more convenient to do that. Or if you're staying, or one of the Epcot properties, one of the things that I was looking at maybe trying to do for your bachelor party again, it was going to be staying at maybe the Boardwalk or the Beach Club because you can walk to Epcot, you can walk to Hollywood Studios. You are right there, right in the middle of all the action and all the magic. So you are it's definitely something that I would always recommend splurging on.
Yeah, no, that sounds incredible. I mean, I sympathize, I guess, with the fellas who suggested you go to the Airbnb, but at the end of the day, that does sound really cool. Probably the last thing on my list in terms of splurging while at Walt Disney World would be to get an adult beverage while at Epcot. There's many different places to do this. You can go into our archives and look at the best places to drink while on Disney property. But there's just something really fun about going and the place we went to in England and getting kind of the mixing up the drinks there is one of my personal favorites. What is that one called?
So the Rose and Crown is the bar that you can go into, but there's a bunch of different mixed drinks that you can get.
The Rose and Crown, that was the one I was thinking about.
Rose and Crown, yeah.
Mixing the different beers together, having those types of drinks. Or personally, the Mexican Pavilion, going getting a margarita and just standing in the Mexican Pavilion, seeing the boat come around for the Three Caballeros ride, seeing the restaurant that's right there next to that ride, and just really kind of that I feel like really adds to your experience of being in Mexico. And if you can't get an adult beverage, you can also get a non-alcoholic option, and I think you'd enjoy it just as much.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I would totally back that up.
Yeah. So that, Steve, did you have one more to add to our list of 10 things?
Let's see. I would say maybe I would splurge on maybe some sort of personalized merchandise, especially like the Mickey ears.
Love
personalized
it.
Mickey ears.
I totally was gonna say that, and I lost. That's a great one.
Sorry.
I was done with my 5, so that's a great one. That's I forgot about that.
Yeah, I would totally throw that out there then.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that if you get, even if you're not getting, the personal ones are great. I love the ones where you see the whole crew and you got your whole squad. Everyone's got something. You got one that says Dad with the Mickey ears, and you got one that says, Granny with the Mickey ears. That's maybe potentially holding a cane or something like that. I love that. But even if you're not getting a personalized souvenir, I think getting something in the beginning of your trip to wear around, whether it be those Mickey ears, whether it be, I got a Venom shirt when I went to Disneyland just because I found one for like super cheap at a Walmart. And the amount of people who stopped me, and I really felt like I was a part of the Disney community there, that I think is, it adds to your experience, and you should really kind of buy in and get something like that for it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And and that's why I love Disney cast members too, is that they're always quick to pick someone out that especially if you've, a lot of people will go and they customize their own t-shirts and, they make themed t-shirts and that kind of thing. Always quick to point out that the fact that, some family made this trip extra special in one way or another. So a lot of Disney cast members will try and go out of their way to recognize that fact.
I always wonder to this day, the big balloon with the small Mickey balloon inside of the big balloon, mm-hmm. What do folks do with that? They probably leave it, I assume, because they can't bring it back home.
I mean, I've never seen anybody try and fit it on an airport, but try and walk around with it at an
But
airport. But yeah, I don't think it lasts very long.
I can't imagine it lasts even through the whole day. Like, you can't bring it around and bring it onto an attraction.
I mean, that's probably one of those more one of those things that you might buy on the way out. I don't know.
Gotcha. It will add to the experience, and kids will absolutely love it, though. And now a lot of folks are doing the whole gender reveals with the, I've seen a couple videos that start out in the black and white, and then they go into color, and the kid's holding a blue balloon, which shows they're having a boy, or a pink balloon, which shows a girl. Might make some of us nauseous, but it's cute, cute nonetheless, I guess. So that is our list of top 10 things to splurge on while at Walt Disney World. This is actually part of a 2-week series. Next week, we're going to get into ways to save you money at Walt Disney World, and maybe some ways that, let's say you're going on a budget trip, that'll be the show for you to tune into. So if you're going for that special occasion trip, this was the episode for you to watch. If you're going maybe for a quick trip or a budget trip, we're going to get you find ways to save you money. Though this one, especially with Steve's breaking down the annual pass holder options, I think definitely helped save you money as well, while splurging at the same time.
A little bit, yeah. I think next week is going to be a little bit more. It's going to be, again, if you're doing a short trip or if you're doing something like definitely on a dime, we could definitely find a lot of different ways to save money too.
There you go, and it'll be somewhat unique ways too. It won't just be when you're in Disneyland walking across the street to those random pop-up shop Mickey souvenirs, and you buy the my sister had the Minnie Mouse headband that had like a little piece of felt ears on the top of it, and those were her ears for the entire trip.
Oh, you took one of my
there you go. That was one of Steve's, but I ruined it already. So a little bit of a sneak peek. But that's going to probably wrap us up today. Steve, is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, just stay warm up there up the north.
We're trying. I mean, it's craziness. We have it's one of these things where just last night I felt like it dipped another 5 to 10 degrees. It's been tough, but we're trying to power through. And we'll see how it goes. And then looking forward to the fact that heading to Arizona in just a couple of weeks, and then from there next month I'll be heading out to go see you guys in Orlando.
Yeah, all right, can't wait.
All right, well, that is going to do it for us today on Disney 101. Thanks so much for checking us out, and remember to leave the things that you'd splurge on in the comment section below. Make sure you also leave a like and subscribe, and follow us over on Twitter at Disney101pod. Until next week, everybody, this has been Tommy on the Spot signing off and wishing you all a very happy and magical week. Take care.